Hello and welcome everyone to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, and I'm going to end that sentence right there because through the history of this show, we have been on Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet's Patreon. We have been on Suplex Retweet Extra. We are now on the main feed. I don't know if there's going to be another feed or if we are going to be called a completely different podcast by the time we eventually get round to putting this up for your listening pleasure. So I'm just going to say welcome to Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, and welcome to the Retro Review. Today we take you back to July 23rd, 2000, to the Reunion Arena, easy for me to say, in Dallas, Texas, in front of 16,504 fans for Fully Loaded 2000. And of course, the dice of chance must have been fully loaded when I get stuck with this man for a brother. He's my rambling co-host today. He's Scott McLeod.
Thank you very much, Ross. Yeah, we're about on Patreon Extra. Now you're on YouTube, because I think the first episode, the Rumble podcast, has been uploaded to our YouTube channel. Not at all a way to lure back Nathan Fisher.
No, not at all. Nathan, that was a co-host. I enjoyed being with.
All right.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Do it, set your own Zoom like next time.
Well, we might need to describe to some people because obviously all the retro reviews, I believe, now are on the main feed, Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify and Android. If not, you can find it on the old links of Suplex Retweet Extra, which are also on Android, iTunes, Spotify, and all Android podcasting sites. We were going to do this back in March of 2020, but then, things got in the way. I started getting more shifts at work. I went to university. I moved house and moved in with my missus. I went on a 3-week holiday to Turkey. And oh yes, the entire world just decided to end. We were going to do this about the week before lockdown came in. It was actually Rangers, I believe, last game before lockdown, and Rangers were beaten by Hamilton by 1-0, and I was in no mood to record a podcast, so we didn't do it. And you are going to hear some things tonight, guys, where round about this time, Goldberg had just won the Universal title, and there was a lot of annoyance because someone of Goldberg's age, 51 at the time, I believe, was in the WWE Championship picture or the Universal Championship picture. So I thought, that age thing, I went to the research of researching everyone's age that appears on Fully Loaded 2000, and yet by the time we got around to doing this again, he's back again. He just won't go away. Goldberg's back, and at time of recording, we are 5 days, I believe, away from the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, about that, and it's funny. It shows how much little nothing changes. Because I had a joke originally. I very little prepare for these reviews, but I had a joke there. Oh, that's very topical about how quickly Goldberg beat the Fiend and all that, comparing it to a match. And this, I thought, oh, look at me with the topical references, and now it's a year out of date.
No, it's so out of date, it's actually topical again. It's taken a while to get here, so much so that Goldberg is now facing Drew McIntyre for a WWE Championship match. We must move on to the past. That is a past where people under 20 challenged for WWE Championships and no one batted an eyelid. We're talking about Fully Loaded 2000. So this card's been advertised as a triple main event, and it's such a stacked roster and a stacked card that a WWE staple, which is the steel cage match, which is for the Intercontinental title, is not featured on the treble bill. It's a weird one. It shows the strength and depth of the roster at the time. Stone Cold featured on the poster here, yet he's not on tonight's. He's not on tonight's pay-per-view. This happened with Judgment Day 2 months prior as well. Kane wasn't on the card, but he was on the poster. So the 3 main events are all in the opening promo. We see Kurt Angle, fresh off his King of the Ring win, taking on Biker Taker. We'll get Triple H looking to take out the frustration of losing the WWF title on Y2J Chris Jericho. And The Rock defends his newly won WWF title against Chris Benoit. The McMahon family drama continues as Shane is in the corner of Benoit and the champion's advantage is gone. So if The Rock is DQ'd, he loses the title. I really enjoyed the opening promo. I thought it was excellent, using the gambling analogies like Vice to describe the hatred these people have for each other. I really thought that it was one of the stronger opening promos. and a year that most of the opening promos were actually really, really good.
Yeah, it wasn't one of your classic ones you'd expect with like the Freddie Blassie and black and white spouting out things that seem inspirational when you actually break it down. He's talking bollocks, but because he's Freddie Blassie, you let him away with it. But yeah, I like the idea of it. I think this is easily the best fully loaded pay-per-view. Then it was the final one they did because it can easily feel like a stopgap between King of the Ring, which was a staple pay-per-view, and SummerSlam, which is also one of the big four. But because like in previous years, '98, it was main event was a tag title match where Taker and Austin, who were going to fight at SummerSlam, teamed up to win the tag titles and held them for all of a week. And then you had like fully loaded '99 with the ongoing Taker Austin story again. And also, Triple H winning the number one contendership from The Rock, only for the 4 weeks leading up to SummerSlam, for the number one contendership to change hands every single week because Russo. And so this one actually felt more important. It was actually a stack pay-per-view. It didn't feel like a filler show. And I think because 2000 is such a big year for pay-per-views that sometimes this gets lost, because when we did King of the Ring, I could tell you everything that happened without watching it. This one, I knew people liked it. I hadn't watched it all the way through before watching it for this.
Well, all that hard work about making it such a great opening promo and making it seem like these men really hate each other was instantly undone as the opening graphic to the show looks like a Windows 2000 solitaire load screen. It was absolutely piss poor. It shows how far we've come with special effects. But the opening match to kick us off is going to be a 6-person tag match to kick us off. It's going to be TNA with Trish against all 3 members of Team Extreme, Matt, Jeff, and Lita. So the main focus on the feud here is Trish trying to embarrass and beat down Lita at every turn. And it's a promo package that's sure to enrage David Campbell, because all we hear in the promo package from Michael Cole is, Trish is a witch, Trish is a witch, Trish is a witch.
Yeah. I remember when they came out, you hear the reaction, like, geez, that's a better reaction than I expect for Test and Albert. And then you show the Titantron where it's all just images of Trish, and just in the bottom corner you can see Test and Albert. That's...
I know, they were just a staple to get Trish on screen. I think we can all accept that now. This is actually Trish and Lita's first in-ring match at a pay-per-view in the year, well, actually ever, but in the year 2000, it's the first time we've had those 2 women compete. Out of the shows we've done on the Retro Review so far, these are only the 5th and 6th women we've seen wrestle on this series. You had Chyna wrestle for the IC title at the Royal Rumble, wrestle in the Royal Rumble, wrestle in a 6-person tag at WrestleMania 2000. We had the Steamboat and Flair of the 2000s, the Cat versus Terry, and an arm wrestling match at Insurrection and a cat fight at WrestleMania 2000. And Tori took place in the Table Dumpsters match at King of the Ring the month before. Scott, Stephanie McMahon's been women's champion for the entire year of the 2000 up until this point. And on the entirety of the Retro Review so far, how many title defences do you think she's made?
Oh, wow, she's a heavy wrestler and always tirelessly rolling up the name of women's wrestling. I'll say 14.
No, you're close. It's 0. 0 defences for the women's champion. Hardly the workhorse of the McMahon family. Shane McMahon's had more matches on pay-per-view than Stephanie has in the year 2000, and she is the women's champion.
Oh, that was going to be my second guess. It was 50-50 there, but yeah. I do like the video package that it is kind of all about these 2, because even though they haven't really had a lot of experience in the ring, it's like the crowd's big response is they still want to see Trish and Lita face off, because like you mentioned, Trish does compete in that tag match at SummerSlam. I like that they've treated her right here, because she's not the wrestler she'd become when she was like women's champion for nearly a year in like 04, 05 time. They're treating her like a manager who's been forced to wrestle and is a bit to get their comeuppance. Like she only comes in when Trish or one of the Hardys has been worked over, and then as soon as the odds are fair, she tries to tag back out again. I did enjoy that, and what's weird is that given how like unsure Trish is in the ring, you can see that the way she's kind of awkwardly like position herself before going for a cover. Weirdly, Matt Hardy botches more than Trish Stratus does, and Matt's been wrestling since he was, 13?
I spoke about how I was going to compare the wrestlers on this card to Goldberg, who when we were originally meant to record was Universal Champion and 51 years old. How old, right, and bear in mind, he doesn't look the age he is. How old do you think Albert is at this pay-per-view?
Oh, he's much like Earthquake. He was born with a face of a 40-year-old and had to grow into it over time. So if he's, I'll say the lowest I can say is he's maybe 30. He looks 30 to me here.
He's 28 here.
Jesus Christ.
He's 28 years old. Test is 25-year-old. Matt Hardy's 25-year-old. Alita's 25-year-old. Trish is only 24. And Jeff Hardy is only 22 at the time.
Okay, well, Trish is the same age here that I am now.
Well, there you go. Right, well, there you go. The age I am at time of recording, only Albert is older than me.
Don't you feel proud?
I do, yes. It just goes to show the time period. It is a mix of WWE taking some gambles on people, but also the fact that basically every established person decided, no, actually, I'm going to go to WCW. So they kind of had to, their hand was forced to give these younger guys a chance and younger girls a chance. But my God, when you see the age of some of the people on this pay-per-view, honestly, Old Man River on this show is Ron Simmons. I think he's 38. He's the oldest person on this show.
I know, and because WCW at this time was trying to do a similar thing with young guys with the whole New Blood thing, but they made the mistake of putting all the young guys together and making them heels against the veterans that everybody liked. Whereas here, they're letting guys find their own footing. The Hardys are young, but people like them, so make them good guys. Dustin and Albert are young guys, but people aren't getting behind them. Let's make them heels. That thing. They're letting everybody find their own footing, and Undertaker and Ron Simmons, they're the veterans here. He said they're not that old because Arn Anderson was being called old by likes of Brian Pillman and Steve Austin WCW when he was 33. So those are the attitudes of this period.
I seen a stat. It was when Taker fought at Super Showdown in February of 2020. That he was the same age at that pay-per-view as the Stooges were when they were working with McMahon, and they were treated like old fogies. It is weird. Also, we can edit this bit out, but do you need to blow your nose? Because this might end up on YouTube, Scott, like the other one, so I don't want to have people see you picking your nose.
This is not... if it's on YouTube, I'm pretty sure your one with Nathan's audio only, so if this goes on YouTube, it's audio only.
Right, okay.
I don't know why. I've not been doing cocaine before this.
Fair enough. I mentioned TNA, they're only there to get Trish over. They are very underrated. Yes, the point is to get Trish over, but they're a very underrated team. They were two big men who were quite athletic and could throw down. It's a shame they never won the tag titles together, and yet they're somewhat of tag specialists apart, especially Albert. When he went to New Japan, he won the IWGP tag titles twice, the G1 Tag League twice, the Pro Wrestling Noah tag titles, and was Tag Team of the Year by Dave Meltzer, our best friend on this podcast, who we really respect. In 2011, they were Tag Team of the Year, him and Carl Anderson. Mm-hmm. So, and he also won Tag Gold in Japan with Travis Tomko. It's weird to think he went on to all this success elsewhere, and yet in WWE he's known as Albert. That's it, Albert.
I know they tried so many things with him over the years, as you'll get to see over the course of this review. Although I'll stop just short of his greatest gimmick, and that is Lord Tensai.
Jesus.
But regardless of the success he has and the accolades he got from Big Dick Dave over in Japan, we mentioned something on King of the Ring review when they were in that 4-way tag match. It's weird that they never had even a transitional ring to go from one babyface to one of the Hardys to lose to the Dudleys or to Edge and Christian or something like that, or even have a big hoss fight with the Acolytes or something like that. But like going into that 4-way tag match, they were the only team that hadn't won the tag titles, and the defending champs were Too Cool. Regardless of the fact that Too Cool were over as hell, it was just weird that they'd had a tag title reign for like 2 weeks, and those two didn't.
Yeah. Test actually the next year won both the WWF and WCW tag titles with Booker T. In 2001 as well, Test won just about every mid-card title going, the European, the Intercontinental, the Hardcore, all in 2001, but just as together, they just were never given that opportunity. Lita playing a great face, high-flying offense, not afraid to get in with the guys, but as you said earlier on, Scott, Trish on the other hand is waiting until Lita's down and try to get, before getting her hands dirty, she's being the conniving heel that she's meant to be. She's playing the role perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. And like they did the show, like in the video package, they showed like the difference between the two, that Lita's still willing to take risks. Like that the bit where she got pushed off the ladder through a table, and also she's favoring the ribs, so Trish goes after that when she's got her down and everything. And there's kind of conflicting attitudes in the crowd, because you've got on one side the "We Want Puppies" chant, which you'd expect, but then you also got fans chanting for Lita while Lita's on the apron, and like Matt or Jeff are in the ring. So Lita's getting over, and like TNA play the good part of like great heels, because like there's a spot that makes the entire crowd go whoa when like Albert picks up Jeff and just throws him to the outside. And then you got Lita kicking, Trish kicking him while he's down. Like TNA play like good heels, like kind of cutting off, whether it's Trish or if it's, because I think it's like, I can't remember if it's Tess or Albert. Lita hits like a tilt-a-whirl DDT, and it's one of the times you can tell it's the person taking the move doing all the work, but they still sell it, do the whole spike thing and everything, just making the DDT look, making Lita look like a valiant babyface.
So Lita picks up the win, gets a bit of comeuppance over Trish. She gets a great moonsault for the win, and Team Extreme get the win. But before they can celebrate, Albert lays out Lita as the heels beat down the faces, and it sort of leaves an open-ended, an open-ended ending, I should say. Couldn't get the words out there. For things to go further. Obviously, we know T and A wouldn't be long for a feud with the Hardys, as they would move on to be part of history in the TLC. TNA never really did much after this. I think they actually broke up not too long after it, so not much more to say about TNA other than they lost this match, they beat down the faces to get their heat back, and that was just about it.
I think because you've done No Mercy already, I think they popped up there helping like set up Lita before a scheduled match with Trish, and they are going to be at Survivor Series. Do you want to know the pantheon of 3-person team they're going to face at Survivor Series?
Oh, go on then.
Crash Holly, Molly Holly, and Steve Blackman.
Oh, for God's sake! I was getting ready to. Make. Sorry, to go.
How will that stack up to this match with Team Extreme? Only time will tell you. So I think at least Survivor Series, and then shortly after that they'll go their separate ways. Because like early 2001 where Tess goes after the European title. I'm sure I don't know what Albert gets up to. Albert goes to be a part of the brilliant X Factor. So he was always getting in with crap stables, wasn't he?
Yes. No, I believe he's Hip Hop Hippo before that.
No, I think that's after.
Is that after it?
It's after.
So much great Albert content coming your way on the Retro Review.
It's Christmas.
Oh, Jesus. Backstage, Mick Foley has a promo with Edge. They claim Christian has food poisoning. Mick Foley, ever the patter merchant, catches them out and sees Christian throwing dirty water into a toilet to make the sound and the smell of throwing up. And ever the patter merchant says they have Freddy Cat-itis. Oh, that Mick. Mick Foley, one of the elders.
Why was his stand-up career never not a success, eh?
Mick Foley, one of the elder statesmen on this show, age 35 on this show.
Jesus.
Edge and Christian, by the way, are the age. They were both 26. Combined age 52, which is the age now of Bill Goldberg.
Well, mother of God.
Also, Mick Foley, 35. It just goes to show, like, what these guys did to get to WWE and get noticed in the 90s, good lord, I'm talking like this, I'm in desperate need of a lockdown haircut here, but he looks like shit.
Yeah, and like, because I've read his first book, Have a Nice Day, I'm pretty sure he must have been started training at 18, and I think like it's just a case of like the risks he took because of like he thought like, well, I'm a bigger guy, I can take more punishment than the average guy, and then he's kind of got in the way of like doing the spots. Like a lot of the time, his Jackie's finisher was doing a elbow drop to the outside, which is basically landing on concrete, so that's going to take its toll on him. I thought he was a lot later, like closer to 40 than just 35 when he retired. Well, he's not retired. He retired in 2009. He's going to be TNA champion.
We see Kurt Angle at the entrance of the arena asking if Undertaker's here. Kurt Angle, 32 here, by the way. Looks great for his age here. Doesn't look it now. We then see Undertaker, age 35, pull up on his bike and chase Kurt Angle through the arena on his bike. Absolutely hilarious. Kurt Angle's not a great actor, but he's got some great facial reactions. Like, he's got some meme-worthy reactions as he gets chased through the arena.
Not a great actor. Have you not seen his IMDb credits for the Sharknado Pro Wrestlers versus Zombies? And his iconic line on Raw that one time when he heard Braun Strowman was going after the production truck, those things cost $12 million.
Moving swiftly on. Taz versus Al Snow. Taz, age 32. Al Snow, age 37. Taz has recently returned from some time out due to a bicep injury. He started attacking people for no rhyme or reason. He's drawn the ire of Al Snow here after choking him out on the Raw the week prior. Having spoke to Al Snow, he probably fucking deserved it. But Al Snow with a really varied moveset here. You seem to forget that Al Snow wasn't just the guy with the head. It wasn't just the hardcore title guy. He had a really he was part of the New Rockers. You don't go into the Rockers without being able to be a high flyer. So he was breaking all sorts of moves, but it was a surprisingly short match. I honestly would have thought, I'd have liked to have seen it get a bit longer given how it started, but it seemed like more of a match to reintroduce Taz. Taz wins with the Taz mission. You weren't a fan of this match though, Scott?
No, not really. No, I really thought, given how they're presenting Taz, it should have been a lot shorter, but, this is where I was going to make the joke, WWE don't do squash match on pay-per-view unless they're putting a belt on Bill Goldberg. Boom. And if you're listening to this after the Royal Rumble, that may or may not be a bit more sadder to say, depending on what happens with Drew. Yeah, it was. I think it was because you can tell the fans don't want to see Taz in long matches because of his reputation in ECW. Because Leah hit a moonsault as a match-ending move, and the match before got a big pop. I also know it's a leg drop followed by a moonsault, and then after the kick out, you can hear low boring dance, and Taz's main moves is just we're clothesline or kicking Al when he's down. And then just at the end, closing bit, starts hitting these suplexes, and that's when the crowd start popping. So I think people who followed Taz in ECW are starting to realise the difference between that version of Taz and this version. Because I've watched a bit from a SmackDown shortly after the Rumble where they tried this vignette for Taz, and instead of his classic ECW catchphrase, the beat me if you can, survive if I let you, they had him say, you may beat me, but you'll never defeat me, or something like that. I might lose a match, but I'm still a winner somehow. And they try to portray him as he's an underachiever because he's so short.
That's like the catchphrase they had on Hawkins and Ryder's t-shirt. It was win or lose, never defeated. That's an attitude for a plucky face who's trying to turn his fortunes around. It's not for a killer like Taz. I do agree with you. And the fact that
they play a thing Taz, we still don't know why he's attacking all these people. Brackets. Writers haven't come up with a reason yet. And you see him attacking likes of Rikishi, he's attacked Kane. The fuck is he in this pay-per-view? And then you see all these people he attacked who are much higher up than Al Snow. And you think, the person who's going to stop this path of Taz, Al Snow.
Call for Leif Cassidy.
Waller even says Is Al starting to make his comeback right before he does the moves off the top? Oh, I was expecting this match to be over by now.
Another two backstage segments now is Christian claims they're the most fightingest champions of all time. Mick Foley offers an apology for saying they had Freddy Cat-itis earlier. Still tickles me. After the doctor says Christian will probably be unable to compete tonight. I don't know how old the doctor is. I know I've been giving you everybody's age so far. The doctor, let's say, indie wrestler at 31. We'll just say that. Next backstage segment, we have Triple H 4 days shy of his 31st birthday, and Stephanie McMahon 24 in their locker room. We have some Joey Tribbiani Days of Our Lives smell the fart acting here, as Triple H and Stephanie are brought some flowers, and they're placed on the mass flower, and amongst the mass of flowers on the table. The card on the table reads, "Good luck to you and your man tonight. It's true, to a massive "oh" from the crowd. Love, Kurt Angle. This is the start of the infamous Kurt, Steph, Triple H love triangle. I'm all here for it.
I don't know. I mean, Triple H, what the romantic, he says to Steph assumes the flowers are for him. He goes, "Did you not take the card?" And says, "I might have wrote something mushy on it." Like, God, just you know how he swept her off her feet, the way he did Big Triple H, the romantic. And then that storyline going, and the fact that they were meant to be watching the screen, they two, while the flowers come in, like seeing the Edge and Christian segment. That's one of the things you get from here that you don't get a lot of nowadays, is that wrestlers actually watch wrestling. Wrestlers actually see the show and what's happening. It's a weird thing. Like, why wouldn't Mick Foley just have somebody watching the show to tell them, "Oh, by the way, they're at the wind-up"? Mm-hmm.
Eddie Guerrero will defend the European Championship now, my favourite European champion. Eddie Guerrero, only age 32 here, with China age 30, going up against Perry Saturn and Terry, both age 33. This continues my run of Eddie Guerrero as my favourite European champion. He's successful title defences at Backlash vs Rios, Insurrection versus Chris Jericho, and Judgment Day against Malenko and Perry Saturn. It was never a title that was given too much respect, but the matches Eddie Guerrero had and his interactions with China and the Mamacita and all that, I thought they were really good, and it shined through around about this period.
Mm-hmm.
We also see the continuation of the world's slowest breakup. Perry and Dean Malenko have now officially kicked Eddie out of the Radicals, and the Radicals are now Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and the manager of the horny little she-devil, as Jerry Lawler calls her, Terry. Eddie's entrance sees China fuming. We see a promo package showing Terry attacking China. I believe it's with a lead pipe. Perry Saturn makes his entrance and doesn't look like he's sure he should be there. But we see Terry appear behind him, and China goes through Perry to give chase to Terry as she runs in the back, running in those high heels, very impressive. The bell rings to start the match, and China throws Perry into the stairs for the second outside interference of this match. A lot to delve into before the match even happens. China versus Terry, would that be a feud you were interested in seeing back in the day?
God no. I don't know if I hate Terry Reynolds or I just hate the way Jerry Lawler talks about her. It's just I can't stand the woman. But looking at Perry Saturn, thinking 33 years old, like, Jesus, rough paper and Perry. You gotta tell me he was 50 and I would have believed you. Eddie Guerrero, on the other hand, looks like a young Pedro Pascal for The Mandalorian, in my opinion.
Well, this is the way that these things go, Scott. We've got so many wrestlers on this card that look older than they are, and yet a lot of them that are still with us haven't aged. That's the thing. They've sort of been born 38 and grown into it, and now it's got to the stage where we're like, they look great for their age.
And then there's Chris Jericho.
And then there's Chris Jericho.
I get what you're saying.
Eddie Guerrero looks as good here as Chris Jericho thinks he does now.
Mm-hmm. And I get what you're saying about Eddie in the European title, because I think from D'Lo's last reign of it, like starting 99 when he lost it to Shane, put in his bag for Midian to find. From there up into Eddie winning it and Angle having the Eurocontinental thing, it was a period where they didn't really care about the European title. You had Bulldog in his jeans, looking like he didn't want to be there, holding it for a while. And so it kind of dipped in and out of relevancy. It was always going to be secondary to the IC title. You know, it never reached levels the US title would reach at points during its run. But at least people like Eddie, trying to bring it some prestige. And what I took from this is like China's doing a lot of interference in the outside stuff that Terry would be booed for if she tried to do the same thing to Eddie. But everybody's cheering. And then when it actually gets to Eddie and Perry in the ring themselves, just wrestling, the crowd weirdly just like quieting down, like rarely popping, just like, wrestling. And they only pop when there's shenanigans going on.
Yeah, I agree with you were saying about like things Saturn would be booed for being a heel, because I've got my notes here. The match is decent, but nowhere near as good as Eddie's other title defences. And then it says, China goes for a third interference when Saturn punches her in the throat and clotheslines her through what was very obviously a rigged announce table for another match. The commentators make it out as if Saturn's some type of bastard. It's like, no, he's been attacked 3 times by someone that wasn't in the match. He was defending himself.
I know. And
do you remember? Do you remember the Triple H Undertaker match in Australia with Kane and Shawn Michaels on like either side of the ring, and it's Shawn Michaels keeps interfering, and at the end of the match, when they offer to shake hands with Undertaker and Kane tombstone them, and they're treated like the heels. Like, no, you cheating bastards! You've done nothing but cheat throughout this entire match. Kane stood on the outside. Kane stood outside and did fuck all. Terry's done fuck all here, to be up until a point. China's interfered like 3 times.
It is almost comical the way that announce table just exploded when China, who weighs practically nothing at this point, because she looked a lot different than when she debuted, and Perry Saturn hitting a clothesline. Perry's barely leaning on the announce table. I think they shoot it from a wide angle when it explodes to kind of show that this was not meant to happen.
With China down, Terry returns to ringside and hits a low blow on Eddie. Saturn follows up by pushing Eddie into the ring post and hits what is a pretty amazing diving elbow to the small of Eddie's back for the win. Winner and new European champion, Perry Saturn. Perry Saturn's one and only singles title in WWE.
And that's interesting to hear, because I would assume they would have won the hardcore title at some point, but I think I just assumed that because everybody won the hardcore title at least once during this time. And I'm kind of sad that, even though it was a good elbow drop, they didn't get to pull out the I think it was a spinning fisherman suplex, but it got the best name finisher in history of wrestling, the moss covered triple-handed family credenza, which is also one of the quote, submission moves that Jericho reads off his list of 1,004 holds in WCW. But I get what you mean. Like, Jerry's an arsehole because she kicks Eddie in the balls, but China interfered twice as much as that, and nothing happened. And it's interesting, like I said earlier in the match, where they said where nobody was really popping for any of the moves, because Saturn hits a moonsault, and I'm sitting there watching. I feel like JR going, "It's the 3rd match in a row with a moonsault." I can feel like, damn it, D-Lo, because you at least got a bit of reaction. The 3rd one's just okay, we're just doing moonsaults for the sake of moonsaults now, aren't we?
Backstage, we see Edge and Christian packing up their bags after fooling Mick Foley, only for Mick Foley to bust in. He says to them, "I'm no doctor, but you guys are going to get your ass kicked tonight by the APA." I don't know how that's a diagnosis there, Mick, but we'll move swiftly on and not linger on it too much.
I don't know, Christian. I think it's Christian when they high five going, "Food poisoning rocks." They're so Dumb and Dumber, aren't they?
I think that's exactly what they are meant to be here, Dumb and Dumber. Michael Cole standing by with The Undertaker as he witnesses Kurt Angle on the most 2,000 spare room TV you are ever going to see, messing around with The Undertaker's bike. What is it about The Undertaker's possessions? it was the when he was the dead man, and then when he was American Badass, it was the bike. Like, don't touch, like that kid in school. Oh, don't touch his bag. Don't touch his bag. Oh no, you trust me. He's calm now. You don't want to see him when you touch his bag. Don't touch his special jacket. That's his special jacket. Don't touch it.
I do love how Michael Cole tries to carry over the segments like a professional journalist. Like, well, we've just seen Mick Foley's medical opinion, but what about your medical opinion about Kurt Angle later tonight? And to his credit, Undertaker tries to make it sound cool, and he goes, well, Kurt Angle's going to need that to remove my foot from his ass.
I mean, that's a good line and all, but I seriously can't just get by this TV. It's just sort of TV you'd watch CITV back in the day when your mum and dad had pals up after school in the day. It's the TV your mum used to watch the soaps on when your dad was watching the midweek games. Like, it's a heap of shit.
And then you got Angle trying to sit on Taker's motorcycle, and Taker gets Angle like, no, I need that motorcycle for when I need to storm the Capitol.
Not going to touch that one. WWE Championship, Tag Team Championship match. Edge and Christian, combined age of 52, same age as Goldberg now, versus the APA, combined age of 76. Bradshaw's 34 years old here, Farouk's 42. 42 is the oldest person on this card. AJ Styles, I'm pretty sure, is 43 now. So it goes to show, like, WWE's reliance on younger guys then and reliance on older guys who have made their name elsewhere now. Like, it's a weird combination. That's not a dig at AJ Styles, by the way. AJ Styles can still go, but it's just like you can't put all your eggs in AJ Styles' basket because he's going to retire in 4 years. Whereas, like, people like Edge and Christian, they were there until, 2011 at least? So another 11 years they got out of Edge.
Mm-hmm. And it's quite funny now that Edge is back now, and like recently announced on Raw that he's coming back for the Rumble, and like you got R-Truth is going to debut as Keiko like a few months from this, and yet you would never be able to tell that he was around as far back as this with R-Truth. The man never ages.
Edge and Christian's happy-go-lucky entrance in this match. He doesn't really scream, I've just got busted and now I need to fight two alcoholic uncles. They come out as if nothing's wrong, as if they aren't going to fight the drunk guys from the start of Terminator 2.
I know, you got Christian with his big blue, like, fucking swimming goggles that he's got on. Are they running out of, like, local sports references to do? Because then suddenly Christian starts poking fun at the Kennedy assassination, and the Canadian, like, hey, that Kennedy gotcha, what's that all about? And, like, they got interrupted before their 5-second pose, and I worried to think what they were going for. Were they going to try and recreate the Kennedy assassinations for their 5-second pose? Because I hope not.
Oh, Jesus. Well, we'll break that down just now. Edge does say Christian's sick and tired of being in Dallas. Edge using the age-old trope of making fun of local sports teams in the local area. Christian does the age-old trope of making fun of the death of an American president. He says if JFK spent 5 more minutes in Dallas, he would have killed himself anyway. There's certain things they got away with back then that certainly just would not fly now, and I think this is one of them.
Yeah, like you talk about going like very near to the bone there. You gotta think whose idea this bloody was. And then you got Bradshaw coming out from Texas, shouting about all of Dallas's foreign accomplishments. I've noted down here, Bradshaw's promo, fuck yeah, Texas.
I've just got, it's called a homer of a promo. The match begins, thankfully a 5-second pause is blocked before Edge and Christian may or may not, as Scott speculated, did a 5-second pause of the Kennedy assassination. I mean, you'd surely need 2 shows for that. Farouk thinks, fuck this. Absolutely, fuck it. Farouk does not care if there's DQs or not, and just picks up stairs and batters Christian's face with them. You hear the commentators as well, like, isn't there a disqualification? Usually, King, but moving on. like Like, what have these guys done? The match is full of absolute haymakers as the APA beat Edge and Christian from pillar to post. Bit of a short match. The finish comes. Edge and Christian obviously want to get out there with the titles intact. Edge grabs the referee and right in front of him drops a tag title on the back of Farouk's head. Winner by DQ APA as the teams brawl to the back. For such a big build-up, it was such a, like, what was the point in the match? You may as well have just called it off.
Yeah, like, because they said that there wasn't any video package, but they have said that, like, I'm assuming shortly after King of the Ring that the APA earned their title shot, and basically Edge and Christian have been thinking of different excuses to get out of it, including tonight where they try to, like, say that they were sick, and they finally, like, found another way to get out of it. And also, you know that this is going to lead to TLC and a feud with the Hardys, so the APA get no retribution from this, and it's like the second big, like, missed opportunity with them, the tag titles they've had this year, because they had that really crap match with the New Age Outlaws at the Rumble. They got thrown out after like a few minutes, and it is kind of cool, like the way Edge did it, where he made sure the referee saw him hitting with a belt so they could like get the DQ and escape. But you think about the fact that they're wanting you to believe that the main event later on can end by a DQ because the stipulation added to it. It didn't really make sense to then have another disqualification earlier on the show, even if like the champions are heels. Like, you could still use the belt, just do it behind the ref's back.
Yeah, weird finish. You know, surely Edge and Christian would want the win as well, but apparently not.
And they have the goal to be from Canada, which is a very loud USA chants during the match as well.
We cut backstage. Triple H and Stephanie are still arguing about the flowers. Triple H says he's going to go for a talk with Kurt Angle, and we immediately cut, as if wrestling isn't scripted, to Kurt Angle being chased through the arena by Undertaker yet again. Kurt Angle gets the upper hand on Taker by hitting him with a wrench, as we fade to black and go back to the ringside for our steel cage match for the Intercontinental Championship. We have Nyla Rose's favourite wrestler and transgender activist Val Venus, accompanied by Trish Stratus versus Rikishi. Val Venus, 29 here. Wonder if he was much of a prick then as he is now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google. I mean, if you're in a good mood, maybe don't Google it, but Google Val Venus's Twitter and Google some of his comments about, for a guy who's basically so meant to be laid back and liberal and free weed, his views on transgender and gay people are quite upsetting, if you ever liked his character in WWF. He's 29 years old here against 34-year-old Rikishi. Again, like, Rikishi's seen as one of the older guys. And they, like, again, I'm going to stop battering the age thing home. It's a really great match. I quite enjoy this match, the steel cage match. And I can't really make fun of anything in it, so I'm just going to pick a hole in the one tiny flaw of the match, okay? Rikishi's banzai drop. He holds onto the ropes. That's not considered illegal. But Val Venus puts his foot on the rope, and that breaks the count. What the fuck?
Very much like the Miz and Shane McMahon cage match where they had, I think Shane put his foot on the rope to break up a pin, and then there was a whole argument, should that count or not? I think the main reason that he seems like is older is because he has actually been around since the New Gen era, but he's been having all these sort of different gimmicks. And like this IC title win that he had, that he lost at the end of Val Venus, I think still his only singles title, because as part of the Head Shrinkers in the New Gen, he had one tag title reign, and then he had a couple, one with Rico and then one with Scotty 2 Hottie after this, and whoever then lost it to Rico and Charlie Haas. But this is the only singles title reign, and it's a shame that his IC title isn't as memorable, because it produced a match like this. It's like one of the better like cage matches, and people say that, this is an era where stipulation matches were protected. This is like, I'm pretty sure there's like at least two more cage matches you've already talked about, like Hardy's v Edge and Christian. Like, didn't Jericho have one with X-Pac?
Hardy's and Edge and Christian, I think it's Unforgiven, and then the month later, No Mercy, X-Pac versus Chris Jericho.
And also, we've already had a Hell in a Cell this year, and then we're going to have another one at Armageddon. So like,
I think there was another cage match with The Rock on pay-per-view. Or if not, Shane versus Rock on Raw.
Yeah,
the steel cage match is not a protected stipulation. It's not been for a while, so I don't know like where fans nowadays get the gall to say, "Oh, steel cage is overused." Ladder matches were used like every week in 2002. So, but during the match, Trish tries to hit Rikishi with the door as he tries to escape. Lita I don't know why I said it like that. Lita comes down with the belt she was beaten down with earlier on and chases Trish out of the arena by smacking the absolute life out of her with that belt. There's no worked punches or protection here. She is beating the holy hell out of her with this. Rikishi was at this time, he's so over. He is like the pop when he comes out. He is the dancing fat guy who likes to have fun that WWE have tried to replicate so many times and absolutely failed with.
Yeah. It's weird what went right with him and not like other gimmicks. I think because he was just so popular that other people just see too many similarities. And like I like that Lita came out because I thought like the beatdown post match, even though the faces got the big win to kick off the baby, I thought the post match beating was a bit cheap. Then I realised, it's leading on to this. And this continues this long run feud between Lita and Trish. And I did love JR. He's typical like, Lita, she's whipping Trish's dress like a government mule. Or like a scalded dog, or one of the two. You'll have to use those phrases. And I think with Val, like he should get some credit as much as an arsehole is for like this match as well. Because I think it's also one of his best matches. And he wasn't really known for those. And I think, you had people like Gangrel and D'Lo Brown who kind of got shoved aside in this era for new guys like the Radicals, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys, the Hardys, and all that. Whereas Val and the Godfather like got to stick around because like Val had this time for the IC title, and then he and Godfather would join right to censor, so that kept them around in the consciousness and kept them relevant for a while. So they're some of the few guys from the first half of the Attitude Era that kind of managed to like keep relevant for an extra few months.
Yeah, because Val's gimmick, I've got it in my notes here. He shaved his hair, he changed his music, it's plain black and gear, stripping away basically everything about the character. It was like, this shows my notes, because Bayley at this point, when we were originally going to do it, her heel turn was really boring. It stripped away everything about the character. She went on to like make something of it. Val Venus, he really didn't. He was just sort of right to censor guy number 4. But...
And it's funny that, like you mentioned APA, it's funny now you mentioned Bayley because now she's technically nicked part of the APA's gimmick for her chat show, which has got that door as part of it that she insists people walk through. It's funny. And I did find it funny now I think about it that right to censor say, we've reformed Val Venus, this former porn star, because they were trying to get rid of the adult content. Really, you think about it, he's a serious character here. Is he not already reformed? Because he's not acting. One of the only remnants of his former character is that he still calls that frog splash the money shot. Like, he doesn't even do the thing or anything.
Yeah. Something I hate in this era, which was good when you watched it, but it's a pain in the backside when you watch it back and you're just watching the pay-per-views for shows. Title changes for the Intercontinental title on WWE TV and never on pay-per-views. Val won the title 2 weeks ago on SmackDown due to Taz hitting Rikishi with a camera during one of his rampages. I think WrestleMania and No Way Out are the only times the Intercontinental titles changed hands on pay-per-view this year.
Well, you can maybe count Rumble because it was for an undisputed. Because you had 2 co-champions going into it, or depends on what way you want to frame it. But yeah, because like Rikishi won the IC title from Chris Benoit, the go home SmackDown before coming around because those two have been paired together in the quarter-final match, so they put them against each other on TV, and that's partly why Benoit was so angry, because he was angry that he lost the IC title to Rikishi.
Yeah. I can understand that if they're not good. Like, title changes on go-home shows of Survivor Series with the current incarnation of Survivor Series with the Raw and SmackDown, the champions go head-to-head. You want to make sure it's the best person going head-to-head. But at this time it is just a pain. It was great to live through and watch when you were watching the weekly shows, but when you're just watching the pay-per-views back, you're just like, oh, for sake. 405 Live is Rikishi with the spot of the night, and I think the year. The big man has a big splash from 15 feet in the air. He hits Val Venis with this big splash. It is absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. I do love JR oh god, and because Rikishi's also hurt himself doing the move, and JR was concerned for Rikishi, and then you have JR well, with Rikishi, what about Val Venis? He probably has some internal bleeding after that. Just crushed him.
Fair play to Val Venis here for taking that. Rikishi's hurt. He doesn't go for the cover. He goes to roll out the door. The door's open, but as he goes to get out, Taz hits him with a TV camera. And Val uses this to crawl over Rikishi, who's rolled back into the ring after being hit with the camera. He's crawled over the top of him to get the win. Winner and still Intercontinental Champion, LBGT rights activist Val Venis.
It does make you feel for Rikishi as the face, because Trish before Lita came out, slammed the cage door in his face to keep him in, and then you think, oh, finally she's out, and now Val's pretty much dead because he lay there for a good while, didn't even move after the splash, and then obviously he managed to just get enough trying to roll over after Taz screwed him, and this all rightfully led to that big Rikishi versus Taz match at Summer. Oh wait, no it didn't. But
another.
Because he cost him the IC title for reasons, and then he attacked him again for reasons, and then Taz really didn't get the big dramatic badass exit they wanted, because he tries to put the camera down and nearly trips over the cable as he leaves.
We go backstage again. Triple H, fucking hell. Just as well we didn't do the draft back then, because whoever had Triple H would have got points galore tonight. That's about his 9th appearance. Triple H grabbed.
Triple H often went into the writers' room and said, Triple H must always be on screen. When Triple H is not on screen, everyone else must ask, where's Triple H?
Triple H grabs a stagehand and says, take me to who's been sending these flowers. Triple H is taken to a dressing room where it's revealed the flowers came from none other than 29-year-old Y2J Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm. Again, somebody who watched the show, because Jericho's obviously seen, Kurt Angle likes her, and I'm fighting Triple H. I'll get in his head by saying it's from Kurt Angle when really it's from me. So again, somebody watches the show.
Exactly. Does not happen with a vase here.
I don't know. You just hear a bunch of banging behind the door. Don't. And then he comes in. I do love that the guy who's been sending the flowers takes him to the room and he goes, well, I'm going to get Kurt Angle first. And as soon as he goes to the guy, goes, Kurt Angle? And then suddenly it's there wait, so who actually is it? And then, because usually nowadays people think, oh, it's clearly Jericho trying to get his head, but they use the Angle thing to kind of lead you one way.
Mm-hmm. The product of Vince McMahon's semen. Vince McMahon, by the way, 54 at this point. 2 years older than Goldberg now, by the way. Shane McMahon, age 30, comes out to the ring. He's greeted by shouts of "Shane's a pussy," which is a chant and a half. Shane says he's calling out The Rock for a non-title match. The Rock 28. Music hits to a thunderous roar from the crowd. The Rock says he knows it's a setup, so why don't you bring out Chris Benoit and I can whip his ass now too. Chris Benoit, age 33, appears on the screen and says he's going to strip The Rock of his title, but first he's going to strip him of his GQ wardrobe. Benoit's been written here as sort of like a snarky, funny heel. It does not work, but let Shane McMahon talk to him. Say what you will about Chris Benoit, but he did leave The Rock one shot to get home in. He may be a murderer, but he's not a savage.
Oh, jeez. Aye. I remember watching this segment and like, I'm sorry, has the network jumped? Am I watching Sunday Night Heat? Because it was just a massive promo segment in the middle of the show for no reason. Are we stalling for time or something? Because because Sunday Night Heat may not be as big a deal weekly now that we've got SmackDown. I'm pretty sure the Sunday Night Heat's leading into the pay-per-views were still a big deal where matches could get announced at the last minute and say, oh, so-and-so has happened on Sunday Heat, so now this match is got given this stipulation. So this is an angle you use to close out the Sunday Night Heat going into the pay-per-view You like, buy the pay-per-view now. How will The Rock get revenge on Chris Benoit for destroying his wardrobe? Like, not in the middle of the show.
Yeah, it's more mind games from Benoit to try to draw a DQ from The Rock before the WWF title match. As we head into a promo for Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, the first of our 3 main events tonight. So, Kurt Angle cost The Undertaker and Kane a tag title match versus Edge and Christian. The rivalry then escalated when Kurt Angle threw food accidentally over The Undertaker's bike in Kurt's defence. People can just park anywhere. Why park your bike in catering? Like that, in fairness, that's The Undertaker's fault for being a dick. Kurt Angle makes his way to the ring, still holding the wrench, and the 6'4" Undertaker, riding up on a Harley, still manages to sneak up on him. How the fuck does that happen?
I know, like, but earlier on when Kurt attacked him with the wrench, like, you could hear Angle's medals were like clattering together, and they were echoing in that large like warehouse bit that they were in. Like, how do you not hear Kurt sneaking up on you? But then, yeah, it's more a question how's the guy on the bike not surprise you. But the promo package is just excellent, especially for Kurt's side of it, because he says to Taker, "No, as the kids are saying today, my bad." He does the big air quotes like Joey, who doesn't know what they mean. I'm sorry. I don't really know what this is.
We've waited that long to use that joke. It's no longer Neil Lennon. It's no longer Joey. It's Neil Lennon with the air quotes. But it is a privilege to review this show. A brawls broke out before the bell even begins. They're through the crowd. They're fighting. The bell eventually rings as Undertaker throws Kurt Angle into the ring. Undertaker goes for 2 pins but pulls Angle up twice. This is the man who won King of the Ring 4 weeks ago and is your number 1 contender for the WWF title. Angle gets the upper hand as the match goes outside with yet another wrench shot. Rest tonight, clearly very lenient. Mm-hmm. Undertaker basically dominates the entirety of this match. He has a choke slam in the last ride to get the win. This is always pointed towards this, and the treatment of Diamond Dallas Page is always pointed towards Undertaker maybe taking his backstage role as locker room leader a bit too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I was interested when this match came up, to see like if it was as bad as people said. And like, yeah, at the start, like, he hits a big boot and then does the 2 and then pulls him up. As if Angle wasn't going to kick out, it has to be Undertaker that does it. But Angle, to his credit, does get quite a bit of offense in the middle section of the match, with like going after the leg because of the wrench shot, and also like going after, because the ankle lock is now becoming his like signature like submission move. But then you look at the run times for the match. Out of the triple main events, this is like by far the shortest, because Jericho, Triple H, and Rock Benoit go more than 20 minutes. This match goes 7. This is a 7-minute, like 34-second match. And like, you know, I think like, at least you give Angle a bit longer, even if he's not going to win, because like he said, he's the King of the Ring winner. And like, if we were to believe King of the Ring when we watched it, it was meant to be the King of the Ring winner versus whoever was the WWF champion at this show. But was that just a thing for Triple H was champion, not The Rock? Why would The Rock not want to fight Angle? Or it seems confusing. And yeah, Taker's back, and like, he just made his return. But like, I don't see why he had to win, why you couldn't have Angle get the upset win. But maybe that's setting up for when Taker challenges Angle for the title, because I think he is his first like major challenger after Angle beats The Rock for the title at No Mercy.
Yeah, and yet again, it's more shithousery from the Undertaker, and more like it makes Kurt Angle look a very weak champion. We see the match graphic for Triple H and Chris Jericho. It's a last man standing match as we cut into a Kevin Kelly narrated video package. So last man standing, Triple H with the women's champion Stephanie McMahon versus Chris Jericho. This all came about after Stephanie interfered in Chris Jericho's match with Kurt Angle at King of the Ring. Y2J planted one on Stephanie for her trouble, and I don't mean a punch, I mean a kiss. Within here, Triple H multiple times saying he wants Jericho's ass. It's 2021. I'm not here to judge. If you want to do that, just keep it in the privacy of your own hangar. Maybe don't do it in front of people. You can kind of see where Triple H comes from. Stephanie shouldn't have interfered in Chris Jericho's King of the Ring match, but Chris Jericho planted one on his wife, so he obviously he's going to stick up for him. Jericho and Triple H are trying to get under each other's skin. Jericho's since cost Triple H a WWF title match with The Rock, got him stink-faced by Rikishi, and cost him a match with the Brooklyn Brawler. This is the first time, by the way, in the year 2000 that the main event, Triple H is not either in the main event or fighting for the WWF title.
I think, well, maybe because also Taker's a locker room leader, and also the fact that Triple H is getting a lot of sway, I think, at this time, through his relationship with the McMahons. I think that's part of the reason why this was built as a triple main event, because, you had all these top guys who needed to be in main event matches. And so I think they continue going on to like WrestleManias. I feel like you had that triple main event, Rock, Cena, Taker, Punk, Triple H, Lesnar, where all these guys had to be main event matches. And like again, another joke that doesn't really work as much as it would have at the time, but we weren't far removed from AEW Revolution when we were going to record this, and I was going to make a comparison to Jericho forcing a kiss on Stephanie to when Dustin Rhodes did it to Jake Hager's wife, and then everybody on Twitter was like, no, that doesn't work at this time. But yeah, it is weird that the guy who forced a kiss on a woman is the good guy, but also because Triple H is such a bastard, you had DX setting him up and like Jericho getting attacked. And it wasn't this promo, but I think it's one of the things because Jericho's already started insulting Stephanie, saying that she's a slut and everything. And I remember there's a segment where Triple H says that no, you shouldn't make comments about Stephanie. She's very sensitive. She's like a flower. And Jericho goes, a flower? Trust me, that flower got plucked and picked a long time ago. And
much like the
interesting, it really actually ramps up like the seriousness of this match is that I knew the last man standing match wasn't as frequently used at this period, but I didn't realise this was the first one since the Rock versus Mankind, so it's only the second one in WWF history, what JR points out.
Yeah, exactly. Would you call it? And as we see later on, it's the only match up until this point, last man standing match, that is, to have a clear winner, because The Rock and Mankind fought to a draw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as you said, Scott, the smacking the lips on somebody's wife or the slut shaming, it's not exactly something that works in 2020 or 2021 as we are now. There's a lot of stuff on this show that is very much of its time.
Mm-hmm.
The start of the match starts a bit slow. Triple H attacking the ribs and the injured back of Jericho. We get a couple of near 10 counts before Triple H loses his cool and grabs a chair. He goes for a pedigree. Sorry, he hits a pedigree, then he hits Jericho with the chair multiple times, goes for a pedigree on the chair, only for Jericho to hit him with a low blow, and it starts making it a more equal fight. I'd never seen this match up until I watched the review for this show.
Same.
I was a bit worried this was going to be 2000 Triple H at his worst, just coming in and like, no, I'm going to win, and I'm going to win by this way. I don't care how I win. Sorry, I don't care how this guy's been built. I'm going to win, and it's going to be dominant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was very much a different match to the Rock Mankind one, because Mankind's a lot more of a risk taker. So spot-wise, I think there's a lot bigger spots in that match, whereas it's more of a fight here, and you have Triple H doing his favourite thing, which is like having a spot which causes Triple H to bleed a lot, because I think he so much wanted to be like Ric Flair, and Ric Flair always bled in a big match, and that would continue throughout into the Ruthless Aggression era as well. So, and also I think it was one of the matches where bleeding made sense, because the only other match where someone really got busted open was they have it in the main event, but you also have it in the cage match, so the bleeding actually makes sense. It's been used for a purpose, because we don't get a lot of it now. And yeah, I was actually surprised that the spot that led to the finish was as it was, like the backdrop into the table. Maybe they were going to use the Spanish name table originally, before China went through it, but when you watch the replay, you see Jericho actually hit off a bit of the concrete, and I don't know if that was meant to happen. I think that's meant to explain why he didn't get up, because Triple H still sells the impact of it, because he gets up at 9. As soon as the ref says 10, Triple H collapses again. So it's not as if Triple H easily defeated Jericho.
Before we go too much into the finish, we'll talk about obviously Jericho's offense. He hits the bulldog onto the chair. He hits Triple H with a chair multiple times, turnabout's fair play. We see sort of an even keel match. They go all round the ring, beating the hell out of each other. Jericho, I think he's trying to take out the back and the legs of Triple H, so he's got the walls of Jericho in for a long time before Stephanie comes in. And this was back in the days where Stephanie would get her comeuppance, and you wouldn't have to wait till WrestleMania to see it. You saw it instantly. She went to slap Jericho. Jericho thought, "Oh, you think so?" Grabs her legs, drops her, and puts her in the walls of Jericho. And Triple H then knocks Chris Jericho out of the ring to sort of build up to the finish. So we see Jericho gets the upper hand. He goes for a Lionsault on the table. Triple H sits up from the table and hits him with a low blow. And I thought this was quite good, quite poetic, the fact that, like, when I thought immediately that it was going to be like the top guy just beating down this up and coming like mid-carder, it didn't go that way. You know, Jericho came in injured, so Triple H went after the injury. Jericho then gets back into it by using the low blow, but then gets stopped by Triple H using a low blow of his own. Mm-hmm. So it's quite poetic. And as you said, he hits his head off the concrete. I think the commentators do allude to that. I watched it just before we came on air. They said, "Good Lord, did you hear Jericho's head hit off the concrete?" Mm-hmm. How are these guys going to stand in it? Like JR's concern, you know, comes through your TV. He's like, "Put these men out their misery. Put them out their misery." Mm-hmm. This has gone far enough. Count faster. And as you said, Scott, Triple H stands, waits to hear the 10, and then falls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
falls down.
Yeah. I think it's the best kind of like last man standing match where the guy who wins just gets up, and like they can. I like ones where they have like creative finishes. Like my favorite of like the modern era in terms of last man standing finishes when I think with Dave Mastiff and Joe Coffey where they're both leaning on crates with wheels on them, and just at 9, Joe Coffey kicks the crate that Dave Mastiff leans on out from under him, so Mastiff falls at the 9, which is. So like it's like that over the years they keep coming up with new ways of doing this, and it's interesting because like Jericho talks about how he and Triple H for a while when he came in didn't like get on behind the scenes, but even though Triple H lost, like he still helped Jericho look good in defeat. And there was a spot in this that Triple H loved teasing, but I never think he actually hits, is when he goes for a pedigree on the steps, only for Jericho to hit the backdrop, and Triple H sits off the concrete, and then he uses the walls of Jericho. It's always good when you have someone with a submission move in this type of match, because if he can't stand up, as they could say in commentary, if his legs are injured, then he can't stand up, and also he goes after the back as well. And Triple H tries to put Jericho to sleep, and then there's a point I think where Triple H holds Jericho's arms behind him, so Stephanie come in and kind of slap him and kind of get some revenge for all the things that Jericho said about him.
Yeah, I like Triple H as well at the start of the match, the sort of shithousery, you know, asking his wife for a kiss, leaning up and lying across the turnbuckle, waiting for the count, and then like how his temper, which has been so well documented throughout these matches, how like he's the spoiled child and how he wants everyone to respect him, but no one basically respects him or likes him. About how it cost him. Like he could have finished the match a lot sooner, but he did get a lot of punishment thrown at him. But like I said, I thought fair result. Really enjoyed the match. I thought it was match of the night for me.
Yeah, I think I prefer the main event a little bit more, but I think as last man standing matches go, given also they're still fresh in people's minds, they're not really sure what to expect from it. They pulled a lot out here, and it definitely made a change from the match before it, where even though I got a bit of offense in with the going after the leg, it was very much this is the Undertaker's match to win, whereas this had a really real story going into it, and it was definitely better than the time these two bloody main evented in WrestleMania.
We see a promo package for our WWF title main event. The Rock has lost the plot of Benoit's sneak attacks, so to make sure it's a title defense and not a brawl that ends in a DQ, Mick Foley has said if Rock is DQ'd, he will lose the WWF title. Some great shithousery here. Chris Benoit wearing a shirt that does not suit him at all. It's one of the Rock's ripped shirts. He's wearing it to the ring. Shane's got the Rock sunglasses on and a Just Bring It t-shirt on. Walking to the ring all cocky. They get in the ring. Shane holds up the shirt. Benoit looks at it with disgust, and Shane just rips the Rock's like $1,000. It used to be like $1,000 shirts that they used to say the Rock wore. It looks like something out of the dress-up box in any school drama department. There you go. Put this wizard's robe on. The Rock comes out, not to as much of a pop as he did earlier. Like, the unexpected Rock pop is something to behold, but when they know he's coming out, he still gets an amazing pop, but it's not as good. Straight away, we see The Rock running after Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon's in the ring while The Rock is staring down Chris Benoit on the turnbuckle. He turns around, he chases Shane. Benoit hits him, only for Shane and Benoit to get a bit too cocky. He chases Shane through the ring, hits him with a clothesline. He stands up on the apron, he sweeps the leg of Benoit, and he catapults Benoit headfirst into Shane, sort of negating him for the earliest part of this match. Some really good heel work here for Shane McMahon. I thought, like, he is my favourite McMahon, but no question about it. I don't care about the best in the world stuff. I don't care how people thought he was overpowered against The Undertaker. I like this Shane McMahon, and it's my favourite McMahon.
Yeah, because like earlier on in the promo, he was calling himself a giant killer because he got that win over Big Show, leaving out the part that where Test and Albert helped him get that win. And it's ironic that he's coming out with this, where Benoit's coming out with the shirt that's all ripped, and that given he's called the Rabid Wolverine, and like the shirt looks like a Wolverine's had a go at it. And he comes out, and it's weird that he's been put in this position so early in his run, but they do everything in this video package to make it seem like he is a worthy contender, and he pisses The Rock off to the point where he says, like, you've got a title shot, but not because you earned it, but because you pissed me off. And then, like, you've got Mick Foley saying he's doing it for The Rock's own good, like this and the stipulation, but it doesn't seem like good guy Mick Foley's basically just giving the heels an advantage going into this, because I think it would have been more believable if, like, Shane, given that he is a McMahon, would find a way to use his sway or something like that to get the stipulation added, and Mick Foley has to reluctantly agree and say this is officially part of the match now. Yeah,
it's a weird one. It's do you remember The Rock's title defense against CM Punk at Elimination Chamber in 2013? And I believe it was Vicky who made the stipulation. It was because her and Paul Heyman were like in cahoots together. So it was like, oh well, if The Rock is disqualified, he loses his title. And it was put in the Christian Randy Orton match because Christian was like a conspiracy theory nut. He thought he was always getting screwed. And the heels always use it to their advantage. They always try, like, you know, spit in the face or like slap them. They hope to like raise the ire of the, you know, the champion. So it's only ever worked once. It worked with Christian. It's just something that's not. It doesn't work when a face character's given it, is what I'm trying to get at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
We see Shane McMahon get involved quite a lot in this match. JR says this would have been a great match so far if Shane would stop getting involved. And then we see Chris Benoit distracting the ref, only for Shane to hit El Hebner, which I think was done pretty randomly. Like, he didn't give an excuse like, watch this and throw the chair at The Rock, or The Rock's going to get caught with the chair. It wasn't master planning. It was just the fact that Shane McMahon didn't like the ref. Like Ryan Gallagher when he sees John beaten, like he runs up and he just hits him with a chair for no reason whatsoever. We got a false finish. Rock's got Benoit on the crossface. Before that, he chases Shane out the ring with the chair. He goes to hit him with the chair, misses him, throws the chair out the ring. Earl Hebner turns round and sees Rock with the chair. He calls for the bell. We think Benoit's verbally given up. Something, by the way, the camera angles here and how they did it here was perfect, because there's this obsession now in WWE of zooming into the ref's face and you hear like the result beforehand. So like it's never people see it on the screen and they can hear it on the screen. You can see it at home. Whereas here, the camera is right behind Fink's big bald head, which blocks out Earl Hebner's face. A big bald head like yours, Scott. He blocks out the ref, and it's like, the winner of this match as a result of a disqualification. You're like, oh, well, The Rock's going to win by DQ, that's why he ran the belt. And no! And it's the crowd reaction. There's some happy people in there, but then there's like the, what? Like the absolute rage because The Rock was beloved at this time. The absolute hatred as Ben was declared as the new champion. Liked and didn't like what happened here with Mick Foley after it. Mick Foley was consistent on the fact that he did put this in to stop The Rock losing his temper and retaining via DQ. But he wasn't going to let The Rock lose via DQ when there was no DQ. I do like that part, but at the same time, like, if this has been done since, why aren't more authority figures coming out and saying, hold on a minute, but, it's, if Mick Foley's been consistent in his reasoning for having the DQ stipulation, surely authority figures should be watching. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I liked it and didn't like it. Like, I would have liked to have maybe seen the show go off the air into darkness and then it be dealt with the next night on Raw.
Yeah, because the way Ebner slowly moved around a bit where Rock had him in the crossface, and The Rock keeps the crossface on even after the bell's been rung, showing how much obviously Benoit and Shane have gotten under his skin. And Rock only releases it when he hears the "and new," and like I think you catch him saying like, "What the is going on?"
It's the eyes.
Rock often can be caught swearing, like when he said to Earl Hebner, "Keep the pin," after he screws up to him versus Angle, no way out, and like they say, like they wait to the "and new," and people booing. There are people throwing cups into the ring. They're that angry. People say that
one hits The Rock in the face.
People say, "Oh, Ben was held down in WCW and he should have got a title shot a lot earlier than he did." Yeah, people booing here, kind of rightfully. But I've heard also people say that when Benoit beat Sid right before he left WCW to win the title, people booed that night as well. So there are some people who weren't as behind Benoit as some people have been in hindsight. But yeah, I agree with you. Like the whole thing with Foley's promo, like I said it could end in a DQ, but I didn't see a disqualification, and neither did any of these people. But you could have done that the next night as well, have the show go off, and you can pop a rating, even though you don't really need to pop ratings anymore, because WCW is pretty much dead already at this point.
Yeah.
You easily handed them their asses and the ratings. But you could have basically done what you did with Kane and Austin in '98, where you have The Rock win it back the next night. And that gives Benoit further justification to get in the four-way that they have at Unforgiven, where you basically do a similar finish, only they do it in Unforgiven much worse.
We see Chris Benoit and Shane walk back to the ring, outraged at the fact that Mick Foley restarted the match. Benoit goes straight on the offense, but The Rock catches him out, blocks a punch, hits him with the rock bottom for the 3 count. Shane McMahon looks bemused, like, how has The Rock won? You actually see him going, how?
Yeah.
The Rock.
By the way, from the Last Man Standing match, the one thing I didn't like about the fact that Triple H got blood, even though it made sense, is that for the entirety of this match, a big dirty brown like mark in the ring from like dried in blood was right in the centre of the thing where a lot of the spots happened. So every time they did a bump and the camera zoomed in where they landed, you seen, look at this dirty blood, and you think like that could not be sanitary. Like that's just I did like the fact that when they came back into the ring, Benoit got some suplexes in before The Rock beat him, and it wasn't like mentioned in the Punk feud when like the Shield got involved to help Punk win, but then Vince said, "I said if the Shield got involved, you'd be stripped the title," but then Rock says, "No, don't strip him the title, just restart the match." And then The Rock immediately went rock bottom, spinebuster, people's elbow, and then won, even though he'd just been put through a table and he was clutching his ribs and could barely breathe. So like The Rock's bleeding, he still takes some suplexes before getting the rock bottom in.
Yeah, and something else he does, he doesn't do his usual post-match pose and all that. He stays, like he's on the mat and he lifts the title and doesn't lift it right over. He just kind of lifts it up for the crowd to see and then leaves it at that. The show goes off the air as Mick Foley is smiling at Shane McMahon, while Shane McMahon is pointing helping Chris Benoit at the back, like, we'll get you soon. And that was going to do it for Fully Loaded 2000. So you said you didn't like the Al Snow Taz match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought match of the night was Triple H, Jericho. You thought Rock versus Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
Why have you given Benoit, Rock the edge over Triple H and Chris Jericho? And why was Taz, Al Snow your worst match of the night?
I'll get into the Taz one now because it just felt like the match that I had less reason to be there. Just, Taz is attacking people for a reason. It felt like a tune-up match for Taz. It didn't feel pay-per-view really worthy. It had the most predictable outcome. Whereas the main event had like the storyline where they could easily screw The Rock, and like everybody, this is The Rock's year, but you felt even more behind. They tell a decent story. They sucked you in with the false finish and the way that they did it, and then they had the authority figure come out, restart the match. Like they see, I'm not condoning throwing stuff at the ring, because also you shouldn't do that. You're an arsehole if you do. But like it shows just how angry some people were at the decision, how much heat they generally got, and like I think putting Benoit with Shane did him a lot of good because it further verified him as a top heel. Because you think before this, Shane was managing the Big Show, who had already had a WWF title reign, so it kind of validated Benoit as a contender when he's got a heel McMahon with him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us here. Don't forget to check us out on iTunes, Android, Spotify and Anchor. Eat, Sleep, Suplex, Retweet, that's the channel. You'll find our past reviews of so far in the 2000s we've done, count it with me, Royal Rumble, No Way Out, WrestleMania 2000, Insurrection, Backlash, Judgment Day, King of the Ring. We've done Fully Loaded now that you're currently listening to. We went ahead of the timeline. We've done SummerSlam, Unforgiven and No Mercy. So we are right up to Stone Cold's return. We're heading towards the end of the year and the infamous 6-man Hell in a Cell. But we still have Rebellion and Survivor Series to do before we can close out the year. So stick with us for that. I'll catch you later and bye-bye.